saying, hey, I have a question, I have something to discuss, I want to share my screen as I go, just let me know, and you can send me in the chat here. Anybody watching live, feel free to use the comment section. We'll see that live as well, and we can lob that up to the artists or anybody on the Food Fight team. Here to hang out for the next half an hour, 45 minutes. Ready?
Yeah.
Ready, Frank?
Yes.
All right.
Is everybody drawing along?
Some of us will. Anybody else gonna draw?
I'll try. May not be beautiful,
try.
but we'll give it a shot.
Mine will look rough. It's okay.
Is my screen
All right, I'll share your screen, Frank.
Cool. I already started warming up this drawing, and I got to work on a badger for the rabbit hole. Can we talk about the rabbit hole game coming to the Discord? I don't want to give anything away.
He just started it.
He already did.
Go for it.
He's a little rough sketch of a badger. We needed a badger. I should have asked if anybody could tell what he is. He's a little guy. So, what do you guys? I want to draw. I mean, I know Sharon, you talked about heads and stuff like that, and really my biggest thing is character design. Right, that's what I love doing, and mainly animals and stuff. But this is really how I kind of start everything off. If I'll actually switch to something. Here's another little one that I've done before of otters, just to kind of study otters and little characters and get used to them. So really all my designs come straight from starting with the circle and then understanding the foundation of simple shapes. So if you guys got questions while I'm drawing, I could kind of work through it with you. Okay.
So you want us to start with a circle?
So yes, start with a circle, right? So, and it doesn't even have to be a perfect circle. I just made one here because I'm digital, but sometimes I'll just draw a circle like that to get myself started. And usually when I'm doing the head, this circle here is essentially the skull. So if I'll give you a rough breakdown of why we do this. And we want to understand, it's really important to understand shapes in three-dimensional form, right? So you can have a regular plain circle like that, and it's a flat circle. But once you start to add curvature to it, right, you're now creating this three-dimensional circle. And if we go and figure how the skull sits, and we put a circle here. Now, oh, you know what? I'll take a step back. The circle. So when you guys start with your circle, this center line, if we go like this, for me, when I do that, it means the character's looking straight at me. If I turn and curve this way a little bit, it means the character's looking to the right, or essentially the viewer's, the left in their world, but the viewer's right. And it's the same thing. You're determining by where you kind of create this center line, where your character is going to be viewed, looking. Same thing with if you use the bottom here, you could push them to look straight ahead or down. If you create this this curved line here, you could start to create or show that the character is looking up. So it's really important to start and determine where you want your character looking. Same thing that if you like I have the center line there, but if let's say we remove that center, let's put that weird circle, but actually I'll just use this main circle. If you want your character looking sideways, and then you're going to use this side here, you could put your eye here, and now you're going to start creating a profile. So this is essentially how I start everything out. I determine based on this circle where the character is going to look. Well, I'm going to get rid of this circle now. So for now, you guys decide where you want your characters looking. I have a tiny chihuahua underneath my desk scratching the hell out of my legs right now. And she wants to be picked up and held because it's thundering out. So let's see, for this particular one, I'm going to say my character's looking off to the left of the screen, like that. And so from there, I'll now start with circles for the eyes. And you want to kind of keep them even distance apart, right? That's why you have this center line to kind of figure out, okay, I got a circle here and a circle there. But you don't want to draw it off because otherwise you're going to have like a bug eye. So I tried to keep it within circle range here, like this. Okay, and then now eyebrows. I mean, there's always the standard eyebrows where you could just put your eyebrows like this. On top, but if you notice, if I change the shape of the eyebrows I use, say we keep one up like this, and then I put one down like this, which I kind of did in the badger, all of a sudden the expression changes, right? If I put both eyebrows like this, I'm not worried about going over the circle there, but if I put both eyebrows like this, now you notice we got an angry expression, right? If we put them up high, like this, we could create maybe a surprise expression. There's a lot of different expressions you could create with just utilizing the eyebrows. So badgers are kind of, they're not really mean, but let's see if we go with the mean badger, right? So I'm going to go with the angry badger. He's not mean. Well, maybe he is mean. He's a foe of the bunnies. And you're going to have to, as your bunny, you're going to have to battle a badger in the rabbit hole. And a lot of times when I'm doing this stuff, I think like I'll feel my eyebrows and I'll think about where they're moving when I create expressions. So I know when you get angry, both your eyebrows come down, and so we'll push that down like that. I know I was talking about how the skull works. So this is where, and usually now here you have this kind of base in the middle, which is the space between the eyes. And on a normal, say, skull like this, right, you would have those cheekbones that come down. Where it'll come down, you'll have your nose like this, centered, and then your top jaw. And so then everything else will come down from here. We're not drawing a skull now. So this is how the circle essentially works for me. I'm working on creating this skull underneath the drawing. This is an underlayer. And so from here, you could do a little nose if you wanted, keeping it in the center, using your center line. Whatever you want to draw. It doesn't have to be an animal. In this ground line, you could create like a human nose if you wanted, and then use cheeks. So believe it or not, this whole template is what I use as a base, and you could kind of create so many different characters from it. So, but I'm going to continue working on this badger. I want to take him in. Also, mind you, the first drawing is not always good. I've gone through so many sketches, and that's why I kind of draw loose. And that's another thing I wanted to mention to you guys is draw loose. Don't worry about being so neat. This is really just a base underlayer. This is just to kind of flesh out things. Like I just noticed that because I'm doing the badger, I put these eyes way too close together. So I'm just going to take this and move it here, give him a little more space between his eyes.
I'm putting some music on, Frank.
Yeah, go ahead. Good.
So you mentioned like feeling your face. Do you ever take like a picture or a picture of an animal that you want to start as a framework for what you're going after, and then use that to help exaggerate the design?
So here, this was what I did. I'll go into Google and I'll look at a badger, and I can't keep them both open on the same screensaver. But where I started with this, just so you understand, is I looked at this badger and I tried to understand the most primitive shape of the badger, and you look at their heads, and it really does form this very interesting triangle. So where I usually start before I exaggerate anything, is I realized that the badger shape is essentially this kind of triangle, right? And they got these big noses. And honestly, if I was just drawing a simple badger, like just to understand their head shape, let's see if I can make this smaller so you can kind of see both at the same time. Right there it is. It's just a triangle. And if you look at this, the top one in the top left corner, once again, even their profile is a triangle. So I will just say, okay, if I wanted to show a badger from the side, he's just got this shape, and I just want to understand that shape of it and how things work. So that's where I'll start. So I do use reference all the time. I'm very big on using real animal reference, because I want to study them. I want to look at their ears. I want to look at their eye shapes or how their claws are or what differentiates them from different animals, because there are a lot that look the same, especially when it comes to small critters. So something as simple as really, we're talking about this triangle shape, right? With this long nose, I would start off with a rough drawing like this sometimes, not even worry about the circle or how detailed the eyes are, and I'm just draw it right on top of my character, and you're like, what is this mess that he's making? But that's part of it. It's part of loosening up, making a mess, and trying to capture these shapes of things. And I'll run through a lot of different versions of this. Sometimes I'll start and say, I don't like that shape as much. What if I wanted to create the badger in this shape with smaller eyes? And I'll start to just mess around with things until I kind of figure out what do I really like and what am I really feeling for my character. So it really is a trial and error thing for me. It's never, I just sit down and the first thing I do is come out with a character. Sometimes some come quicker than others because I'm so used to drawing certain animals, so it's a little easier, but also I get trapped in making those animals look the same. Like that, if I drew a mouse and then all of a sudden I draw another mouse, it looks almost exactly like the other mouse, and I don't like that either. I always try to find new ways to change it up, make them look different, create different aspects of them so they have different qualities, I guess.
Do you ever have to find what is the recognizable or predictable feature for somebody to identify with the character that you're going after? So is it the one feature that has to look like a badger in this case so that it's recognizable?
Okay, so that's the thing. Yes and no. There are definitely distinct traits, right? So I always try to shoot for distinct traits and distinct things that make them stand out. And sometimes I'll try to exaggerate those, but I also want to rely on, there's ways that you can take something. Hey, you know what? Let's erase this. We'll start from scratch again with this. And I'll show you what I mean is a lot of times I've noticed where, you could take something like this, you could draw your eyes and a little nose like this, and honestly you could put this teeth here, and then if you just give it ears like this, it's all of a sudden, right, and a little it's a mouse, right? But then if we get rid of these, and so I've seen this a lot, I think especially in the tattoo industry, right? You got this, and then all of a sudden you go and you do this, it's a bunny, but they all wind up looking the same. There's no distinction between their features, or you could even give them floppy ears, like this.
Little tech housekeeping. Does somebody else have a StreamYard login from the Food Fight team? Because I'm gonna have a thunderstorm hitting here. So.
Oh, we're having one right now too.
Yeah, so if somebody else can log in, just so that if I lose power and internet, we can still keep it going.
So just to answer your question, Sharon, I try to avoid just relying on, like, if it's, sticking with the same structure and just, the distinct features in a mouse is those big round ears, or the bunny is the long floppy ears and the buck teeth, because it still doesn't give the character personality. So I try to understand a little more of what it does. Like, especially with the bunny, they have these big kind of almond eyes, and they almost have a nose that curves up like this. So and I've drawn a lot of bunnies apparently, considering the Battle Bunnies. So like those are features that I'll pay more attention to. What differentiates them from other animals that look similar? They have these big eyes like this versus a mouse, and I'll try to focus on that and exaggerate that instead of relying on the ears and the buck teeth, because I could give him like small teeth like this now, and still just create this shape of a head. And then, the ears are only a benefit now. But, if I took the ears up like that or like that. But I'm focusing on other distinct features of the rabbit or bunny instead of the things that most people fall right to say, well, this is what it is. And so in the instance of the badger here, I look at it. I mean, if you put those stripes, which they're known for, here, let me put this back. If you look at that, that's a very common thing on the badger, right? That's a European badger, by the way, is the black and white one. Looks almost skunk-like. And that's a very distinct feature of the badger. So I don't want to rely on that and once again use the same formula. So I dug a little deeper into it and looking at really the shape of their heads, the size of their nose versus the size of other things in their other features, how they have little tiny ears versus, well, some do, especially the European one, which is the one I'm kind of working with, has small ears and compared to the other one. Now, they do have really tiny eyes, and that was a little thing that I was kind of tossed between. Like, do I take it and create smaller eyes with it? So, like, do I want to take this same concept and work with the smaller eyes and see how that one works out? And so a lot of it is just testing too, right? It's just playing with attributes for myself and seeing what I like. So do I want to, let's go with the badger again. So that's what we were doing. So when I started, I put both. I usually would tend to put, like, if you look the pupils, right, both looking center like that, and it almost looks like they're looking down their nose, but it kind of shows that they're like focused on whatever they're looking at. But you could also, if you want with your pupils, that's going to determine where something's looking. So like if I move them both up in this direction, now it's kind of looking up and away, or kind of behind it. And a lot of times, where I have a character looking, I'll determine based on how I'm trying to get the viewer, like you kind of leading the viewer's eye to where you want them to look as well. So let's see, if we go with this smaller eyes, I can shrink the eyes down too. One of this is just testing, playing with something until you find a character design you like. So, like, the other thing that I very good one is if you look at the muzzle of the, if I was just to create the shape, it is a three-dimensional cube or rectangle. So if you're not sure, sometimes people wind up with wonky shapes that don't feel centered. And if I'm really having trouble with it, I will draw its most primitive shape and attach it to this primitive sphere and once again look at the shapes that I'm trying to work with, which is that big triangle, to create this, really get the traits of the badger. How's everybody's heads coming along?
Mine's looking a little sus.
A little what? A little suspect?
This is not the easiest thing to do in pen.
No, it's not.
It's kind of cute.
No, I'm fortunate enough to be working on digital because it does allow me to just go back and layer. So, which is really important too, because you want to be able to create these light, rough layers where I can just sketch. I don't have to worry about details. If I want to change things, like I'm going to push his eyebrows down even more, like this. So I'm not even worried about those big, bulky things there, like that. And I want to pay a little more attention to this skull here, skull shape. And it's okay to be sloppy and rough with this. You don't really have to commit to anything at the moment either. And I think that's a lot of things people don't realize is you don't have to commit right away. Just try different things, try different shapes, play with stuff. See where you're getting to, see what you like and what you don't like. Like, right now, this one is it's not the best shape. I know that, but it's okay. I'm just trying to flesh it out and play with it and see if there's anything that I do like about it and want to keep. I also noticed that badgers have somewhat of a longer neck when I was looking at them and kind of studying their Google images. So that kind of helped me out too. They have a long neck and a very short legs, arms.
Anybody know the amount of badger species that exists? We'll do badger fun facts.
Oh, yeah, let's do badger fun facts.
They're so cute, by the way.
I know, I want one.
All right, also accepting live stream comments. How many badger species are there in the world?
27.
I'm going to guess and just say 13.
Angel is closer than Peyton.
Well, I guess if you're not digital, you cannot do this. But a lot of nifty thing that I do a lot of times is flip my screen. So I can flip back and forth and realize that if it doesn't look good, if I flip it and all of a sudden it looks wonky, then something's not right. So I do spend a lot of time flipping my image, which also just showed me that this eye is not placed correct. And also I didn't really take much time to do it, and it's a rough, so it doesn't matter. We're going to bring this down.
There are 11 species of badgers.
11, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's cool. I love badgers. I think they're so cute and adorable.
This is a totally different species, but the other day we were looking at the different kinds of armadillos, and you need to take a Google search of a pink fairy armadillo. I can't even believe they're real. It will blow your mind. It's like the cutest but also strangest looking animal ever.
Pink fairy armadillo, huh?
Mm-hmm.
No way.
Isn't that crazy?
All right, we're doing this right now. We're going to do this for everybody. You can't just
No
put that out
way.
there.
This is real?
Yes.
This is so bizarre. Look at its feet.
Fairy armadillo.
Frank, you have to
Oh,
put it.
you know what? That's funny.
Put
I've
it on
seen
your
this before.
screen.
I didn't know that's what it's called. It's on the screen.
This is insane.
It looks like a sushi roll.
Right?
I feel like, you know what? This is giving me a great idea too. I feel like armadillos, they're armored and everything, somewhere need to kind of make their entrance into the Battle Bunnies world eventually.
Yeah,
Right?
because they have their armor. They're ready
Yes.
for battle.
Yes.
There's literally a photo with it next to a sushi roll. This is nuts.
So let's see. All right. Now here's what I'll do. There's a lot of things I don't like about this sketch I'm doing now. So what I'll do is I'll lighten my layer, put another layer on top. Actually, normally for the sake of I would delete the whole layer and start again. But for the sake of this, I'm gonna keep it on here, and we could. Oh, also, when you're doing the eyes, the thicker part that you go around the eyeballs with, because the eye is a sphere also. It's it's like a circle. It's a ball, and then the eyelids kind of sit on top of it. So you got to think they curve around the shape, and then you have where your eyelashes, your top eyelashes, and then your bottom eyelashes to where the corner is, and that's what kind of creates the shape of the eye. So in turn, when I'm doing this, a lot of times that little darkness that I'll put around their eyes is essentially where the eyelids would be. So if for the sake, let's put another one here. Actually, we're going to shut this one off altogether because it's throwing me off.
What is it that makes it the character design, from the standpoint of what is it eyes that are just very, hyper realistic, or is it nose that usually, I know caricature artists usually start with the nose or the cheeks, to make it hyper realistic. What is it for you that makes it, your unique character design from a feature standpoint?
That's a good question. I'm trying to think. I guess sometimes it could be just be the certain defining traits that I'll pick, and they'll represent. There's almost what's the word for it? Like people. There's different, right? There's like when you look like at characters, just people as characters in general, right? And there's certain traits that they have, or stereotypes. That's what I'm talking about. When you look at just certain stereotypes of things, like you see in people, and same way Pixar will use these stereotypes to define characters and stuff like that. I try to kind of put that into my characters as well. Like when I drew King Harold versus the other bunnies, I know everybody's, I'll just draw King Harold real quick. Is he going to be like the other bunnies and just have a crown or whatever? And I'm like, no, because that's not what, I don't picture King Harold like that, Like King Harold should stand tall and proud. All the other ones are like fierce, ready for battle. But, I just wanted kind of King Harold to stand like tall and proud and be more imposing than the other ones to show that he stands out as a king versus just sticking a crown on his head and, that's the king. So that's I guess kind of what I look at is what defining traits or stereotypes can I put where I gave him the larger chest and the longer, taller body, where he looks a little more hero-esque and imposing. So I think about those kind of things too, also like the eye shapes, the size of the eyes determine a lot of things as well. So I'm going to show off that later. We'll never mind the badger for now. Here, I'll show you something cool. So if you put like these little eyes on something, is little eyes and a big head to something, right? You'll usually get this more cute aspect because it looks a little more baby-esque, right? With these little eyes. And also, if you do these giant pupils, it also makes things more like super cute. Right, so if I was doing a character and it's like, oh, well, I want it to be super cute, I'm going to give it small features and that big head. And if I was going to give it hands like a kid, like they have, like some things are just too big for them. And, I'll give it like these big arms, but I'll give them these tiny little fingers. And look at attributes of that stereotype of what, certain kids or like humans versus adults versus children versus this and that to kind of apply those features. So now if we take that same thing, also the pupils could determine a lot too. When you give these like tiny little pupils and the small eyes, things become a lot more sinister, and now we could use that same big head, but it doesn't look so baby-esque anymore, it kind of gives it a different look. So there's so many different attributes that you could use to create things. And if we give it giant eyes, and maybe like a small head, but a longer face, all of a sudden you have something that's much more grown. If you were to widen out the face too a little bit like this, now and the small head, this is where I'll choose what to exaggerate, what not to. Now you have a heavier character, right? But it's the same thing. You could apply it to the animal, right? So if I find the features that define the animal itself, and now apply this to it, but maybe look at like a cat's nose and a cat's mouth like that, and then start to develop on that, and the fur of a cat or something. Now all of a sudden you have these features. You just created a cat that looks more like that. So it's really taking human features in a sense and applying them to these animal features. Does that make sense? Well, okay, glad it does.
Yes.
Like,
But also, I guess I'm even noticing it doing a panda. And normally pandas don't have eyebrows, but if you want to, exaggerate an expression, you're gonna have to give it something human. I know it might have the facial structure of having the top of the eye socket, but there's no actual brows, so if you want to have the personification of an animal that doesn't normally have a human characteristic, then you're going to have to give it a human characteristic. Yes, Nala, I'll draw you next.
You have to add the brows, right? You're going to have to add the brows. You're going to have to add mouth expressions. So but you can find creative ways. Let me pull up a panda real quick. Even though I kind of have a rough idea of what I know what a panda looks like, but my point is they have the attributes. Why do I have both terrified dogs sitting in here with me? So there's the panda. Now, what you could technically use, right, they don't have eyebrows, but what they do is that they have those really distinct markings around their eyes that everybody's familiar with, right? So in that sense, I put that here. In that sense, you can almost use the shape of that to create their eyebrows, right? So if I was going to do this for the panda, now all of a sudden it makes the panda look angry. If I was to use that shape like this, now take that thing, and then put a big smile on the panda, he looks happier. Well, I'll change this. I should too. Yeah, kind of change that shape there. So you can essentially find certain aspects of the animals and humanize them, as opposed to or you really could just stick eyebrows on it. I mean, that's going to help. That's a humanistic way to kind of create, give it that humanized form in your animals. But sometimes I do try to find little clever ways in order to give them that form without just resulting to the easiest way. Sometimes it's a struggle and I cannot pull it off. It's just a lot of trial and error and working through it and fighting through it. And then at the end of the day, if it's just sometimes beyond me or I can't do it, I will resort to what I know best and go with that and do the best I can. That's the other thing with art. A lot of artists put a lot of pressure on themselves, and you can't do that. You grow and learn every time you draw. So, but all it is practice. You just gotta practice. Everybody's like, I can't draw a stick figure. I can't draw this. And I know we're playing with head shapes now and character design, and it's technically a little, or maybe a lot more advanced than just where I would start off a lesson if somebody really wanted to learn to draw. But I promise it's not that hard to learn to draw. It's the time and effort and practice you're willing to put into it. And I spend my everydays like drawing.
That's what I tell my daughter all the time too, because she wants to be an artist and do these things. And I'm like, you're just now starting off. If you're serious about it though, you got to put the time in.
Absolutely. That's all it is. It's just timing. And so when people say, well, I can't draw a stick figure, or I can't draw, I don't have any talent, well, that's not necessarily true. When people say, oh, you're so talented, you can draw so much. And I'm like, for me, I never truly believed that it's just, oh, it's so talented. It's like, I don't think anybody realized how many years and hours I put into this, how much I've studied, or how many, I went to school, and me and Krista both went to school, learned, did our assignments, and worked and drew to get there. And nothing started off looking great or good. And, and a lot of things, even today, sometimes things don't start off looking great or good. They look terrible, and that's okay. You work through, but when you have the problem-solving skills because you've been drawing for so long, you figure out how to solve your own problems. And you can look at your artwork and you can look and say, okay, what's causing this problem? You understand the foundation, the basic shapes, and you resort back to that. Look at your basic forms, which we studied for years and had to practice, and then say, okay, this is where I'm having my issue. And that's all it is. It's really just a lot of problem solving.
All right, we're coming to the end of our live stream. How's everyone doing?
Good, I think.
Yeah. What do you got, Paul? Is it on your computer? You want to share your screen?
No. It's I've drawn it, hand drawn.
Wow.
Yeah, there we go. So, that one it.
So fast, too.
Oh, you guys are drawing traditionally. Oh, wow, that's cool. I haven't drawn traditionally in forever. I missed it.
I sometimes find it.
The paper down.
I sometimes find it a bit easier to draw in my head for like what I want to create on paper first, and then like scan it in, or take a picture of it and then draw it in on the computer that way. It's kind of like as a baseline, I suppose.
Yeah. That's what this. Sometimes I'll doodle on still like in a traditional format and just rough things out just to get shapes. There's so many ways to go about it. And honestly, I go through so many versions of things. Like now, I'm just messing around. I'm like, oh, let me try some like different things. for this, and it's like I don't love it, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be my final drawing. I don't care. And I think that's what a lot of people when drawing don't realize that is. You don't have to show everybody everything. Work through your issues. Work through the bad drawings on your own. They only, at the end of the day, they only need to see your end result. But
You got that, Mike? Just work through your issues and the bad drawings on your own.
Yes, exactly. And
Yeah, I'm scared to show mine, so.
don't ever be scared. So look, I'll show you guys real quick. The biggest thing that, like, even my apprentice at the tattoo shop and anybody that I sit down with and really wants to learn to draw, which is probably would have been where we should have started, but I figured it's boring. And nobody ever wants to do this or practice this, but I spend so much time doing it, and I doodle when I'm hanging out or we're talking or we're in meetings. John learned that about me. I like to doodle, and I'll sit and I'll draw three-dimensional shapes. I'll just doodle these. I'll just practice little three-dimensional squares. I'll do like little pyramids in three-dimensional space, because everything that we see in life is created from simple objects, whether it's a cylinder like this, a cube, or like maybe it's a longer cube, like which is a rectangle. But all you're doing is you're stretching out that cube form.
All right, while we're wrapping up, I have more trivia. Fascinating
More
facts. More trivia about badgers.
Yes, yeah.
Let's see what I can get for you guys. All right, so how old can a badger's home be? How many years does a badger keep a home for?
Ooh. I'm going to say until the next badger comes along and takes it from him.
Anybody else have guesses?
I'd say it's inherited down badger to badger.
It is. It's a generational thing. It can be up to 100 years old, a badger's den.
Wow.
That's pretty crazy.
Awesome. That is fascinating. And
All right.
Just last note, when it comes to character design and stuff, based on that, I will sometimes spend a lot of time reading about them and see how can I apply stuff to the character and their story based on how they are in real life. And that's a good fact, because when we bring badgers to the Battle Bunnies universe, because badgers are coming in the future, we're going to have to add that to the story somehow.
Yep. And then here's a fun one. The Honey Badger Don't Give a Shit video. When did it first air, or when did it first hit the internet? Month and year, please, are accepted answers. Anybody live streaming can also, anybody who's watching live can put it in the comments.
Oh, damn. I have no idea. That's a good one.
Peyton, any guesses?
The answers.
Everyone knows Honey Badger Don't Give a Shit, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Am I allowed to say that? Or should it be bleeped?
Well, I was
Too
going to
late
say
now.
the true one is a little more vulgar than that. So I think we could go with that one.
All right. No guesses? Taylor from YouTube. But what's the month? Month and year, please. (2011) is the correct year.
Oh, wow.
Viral phenomenon? Nope, not May. It is a January 2011, according to one source. All right. I really appreciate it. The team really appreciates it. Frank and Krista.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you guys.
I'm gonna post this.
I love it.
All right, everyone, have a great weekend.
You too, guys. Well, I'm sure we'll
Thank
talk to you all soon.
Same
Thank
time
you.
next week. Bye.
Thanks, guys. See you later.
Right.